Good morning, third year students. Wish you all a cheery morning. This is today to end with scene 5 by explicating the third part, which is the last part in our discussion concerning and regarding the fifth scene of Act 1. And by this, we are to put an end to the whole course of Act 1, which is the introductory act to this play. Then by the end of the scene, we will be introduced to almost all of the, let's say, the characters of the play. Most importantly, we are now introduced by the end of the scene to all the major characters that will take part in the course and development of the events of the play, which is Hamlet, the Prince of Denmark. Now, after being done with the first part of the night watch and the waiting for the ghost, and then also discussing and explicating the second part, which is the first full meeting between Hamlet and the ghost of his father, in which he will tell him about the full story of the murder at the hands of his uncle Claudius, and then to ask, to urge, to plead for Hamlet to take vows and to give him his swears that he will revenge and get his vengeance against the murderers of him. Then the third part now will comprise of three characters only: Horatio, Marcellus, and Hamlet. As you see here, we have Horatio and Marcellus the guard, and also Hamlet is with them. So we have ended the second part of scene 5 with the meeting between Hamlet and the ghost. And then after the swears and the vows given by Hamlet's side, from Hamlet's side to his father, then we remember also in the first part of scene 1 that Horatio and Marcellus refused to let Hamlet to go to meet with the ghost because they were afraid that maybe that ghost will drive Hamlet mad, or maybe this ghost is an evil spirit and it will murder Hamlet, or also maybe it will harm him by just pushing Hamlet from a high cliff or the high castle of Elsinore. So then at the beginning of this third part of scene 5, they will, I mean Horatio and Marcellus, they will decide to follow their lord, their friend Hamlet, their prince Hamlet, in a reminder, in fact, in a historical allusion and reference to the Vikings. Then those Viking ancestors of the Danish people, of Horatio and Marcellus and all the others here, of the people of Denmark, all of them, then they have the sense of comradeship. They were gathering in the mead hall, which is a place for festivals and feasts, and then they will swear at their swords that they will protect their lord and prince or king or even a very closest friend by their lives. So they were having this really sense of comradeship, which is just like a very strong tie of a friendship. So bearing to that spirit of comradeship from their forefathers, and because they are ancestors of the Vikings, Horatio and Marcellus, we will see them at the beginning of this third part of scene 5. They will decide to act in this, let us say, idea of comradeship, and they will decide, they will make up their minds finally not to wait for Hamlet to come, but they will go to him in case that the ghost will do any harm to him. So they will fight for death with the ghost to protect their prince Hamlet. Then the first thing we will notice here is their meeting again. Then we will see that Horatio and Marcellus find Hamlet. Now, their voices are filled with concern. They are so concerned about him. So as we said, they thought before that maybe that ghost is an evil spirit and he will do harm or even murder Hamlet. And now they sound relieved when Hamlet responds playfully with the old falconer's cry, as you see here, "Hello, ho, ho, boy, come, bird, come." This is a sentence that is, let us say, uttered by falconers, those hunters who have birds, they have use the falcon to prey as a bird of prey to hunt their, let's say, preys. And then they were so concerned before, I mean, Marcellus and Horatio, about Hamlet and have what he have what he has done, let's say, or what have been done between him and the ghost, if he is now safe or not. So now their concern is somehow relieved when they hear the Hamlet uttering or mentioning this, let us say, comic, let us say, playful sentence here, which is the falconer's sentence. Hello, ho, ho, boy, come, bird, come. So they are now relieved. They discovered now that Hamlet is safe and there is nothing harmful was done to him, but from the side or the part of the ghost of his father. So yet still now their relief is short-lived. Now they will not have this relief for a very long period of time. Now it's a very short-lived one, because when they immediately notice a change in Hamlet, now the change in Hamlet's personality, the change in Hamlet, even physical complexion, outer surface, now is so clear, so evident. Then this apparent change in Hamlet is because now we will discover later on that he will now decide to behave as somebody else and to behave as to pretend madness, in fact. Then Hamlet now, look at this pretensions of madness from the part of Hamlet. Then he is a little too cheerful at one time, and then he's a little too playful. Now he's an extreme of everything, an extreme in cheerfulness, an extreme in playfulness, and then most importantly, he will not reveal what has happened. He will refuse all the attempts of Horatio and Marcellus to drive him to tell them what had happened between him and the ghost and what was the crucial message of the ghost that is delivered to him. Then when the men press him, I mean Horatio and Marcellus, he dismisses their questions and cuts them off abruptly. He even keeps Horatio at arm's length. He refused to tell him anything, even though he is his closest and dearest friend. So he dismisses all his trials, all his attempts, and he refuses to tell him anything about the story between him and the ghost. Then Horatio really, because he is a closest friend to Hamlet, he is hurt from the inside. He is deeply hurt from the deepest core of his heart, but yet still he tries to calm Hamlet, bring some reason back to the prince, and make him stop his, as he said, wild and whirling words, as you see here, those strange, odd, weird words that were being uttered by Hamlet at this extent, at this degree, at this place and of the scene. Then Hamlet then responds to Horatio's entreaties and apologizes sincerely for offending him. So Hamlet now immediately starting to apologize to his dearest and closest friend, because he knows that he hurt him by dismissing him, by letting him far away from him, by refusing to tell him the story of what had happened between him and the spirit of his father. Then, so still, in spite of that, uh, in spite of all the apologies from the part of Hamlet, he will not confide in his friend. He will only tell Horatio one thing only, that is, this ghost was an honest ghost. This is the only thing told by Hamlet to his dearest friend Horatio, because you remember we said many times before, the Elizabethans, I mean, according to their beliefs, they believe that when there is a ghost or a spirit, this ghost or this spirit might be one of two, either a good spirit or a bad spirit. So now Hamlet now assures Horatio of one thing, that this is an honest ghost. This is a good spirit. So this is now Hamlet is paving the way for Horatio, the scholar, the intellectual, the student at Wittenberg University, the skeptic Horatio, to believe in the existence of supernatural elements, and also to believe, now Hamlet is letting no chance for Horatio to believe again that this is an evil spirit. So he assures him that this is an honest spirit, an honest ghost, and it is honest means it tells the truth. That is why he's paving the way for Hamlet and Marcellus and all the others to believe that what has been told by the ghost is a real story, and that is really he is not lying, and really that he was the ghost of the spirit of Hamlet's father, which came to tell him that he was murdered at the hands of Claudius, his uncle. Then, according now, as for the ghost's appearance, Hamlet tells the men that the event and the act and the meeting between him and the ghost of his father should and must remain a top secret, not to be told to anybody in the kingdom of Denmark or even elsewhere. Then he insists on them that they never reveal what they have seen, no matter what happens. If Hamlet should uh, even if Hamlet should put, you see here, if Hamlet should put an antic disposition on, even if Hamlet now, he is a pretending madness, but he tells them that even if he is now, if he will be mad really and actually, then even if he acts as a very mad person, even if he is now will really be mad, then of course he addresses them not to tell anybody. And in other words, if even if they will notice that he is now a crazy person, the soldiers Horatio and Marcellus are to say nothing to anybody. So clearly now Hamlet has decided that it will be best for him to assume a false madness at this state, at this extent, at this place in the play. Now, the best way, according to Hamlet, the intellectual, the very clever character, then to gain his revenge and vengeance, and to, let's say, to figure out the truth of the murder of his father at the hands of Claudius, is to pretend madness, and then no one will accuse him of anything, and then he will be able really to discover out what had really happened without, let's say, spreading suspicions here and there. Then um, now he is now really pretending a kind of madness in front of the men, even now at this, let's say, state in the. Now he acts silly, as we said before, a little too cheerful, a little too playful. Then he is not revealing anything, and he is answering his friends with the falconer's cry, the hello ho ho. So he is even from now, from this point in the play, he is from now pretending a false madness in front of them. He acts in a silly way. He answers the concerned questions of Horatio and Marcellus with witty puns and joking replies, the falconer's cry. Then he brings the men together then to swear their silence. Now, it is not enough for Hamlet and the comradeship spirit that is taken and descendant from their, let us say, Viking forefathers. It is not enough to have their words. Hamlet wants to have their swears now. Then they should swear that this matter will be kept as a secret thing. Then that is why he's now inviting them to swear their silence. They first hesitated, both of them. Now the ghost is watching from down the cellar, from the cellar room, from the cellar under the stage, and then the voice of the ghost will come out three times, urging the men to listen to Hamlet, to do what he is now telling them, and to swear to keep this matter secret until Hamlet will be able to reveal everything and to discover out the truth about the murder of his father. So now the ghost is watching them from under the stage, and its voice rises ominously, demanding that the men do as Hamlet has asked them. So then the voice commands the men to swear themselves to silence, not once, but three times. Now, three times the ghost will urge the men, Horatio and Marcellus, to listen to their prince and to abide by, to adhere, to hearken, to listen, to do what Hamlet is telling them to do. Then, after these three calls from the side of the ghost, now the men, Marcellus and Horatio, quickly comply and swear to silence on Hamlet's sword, which is again a very typical act that is derived from their Viking ancestors, in which they swear on their swords. Once a man, a comrade, swears at the end of the sword, now this means that he is now really the best vow is to be given, and which means that this man will do really what he is promising of and what he is swearing of. Then we come to a very crucial point in this scene and in the whole course of the development of Hamlet as a play. Then we will come back to Hamlet. And we will come back also to Shakespeare. We know always that Shakespeare, when he wants to put an end to a scene or an act, he will end this scene or this act with a suspense. So now he will do the same. This is no exception. He will do the same with the end of scene 5. He will do the same with the end of act 1. And by doing this, now he will place a very, let us say, tensious, a very crucial, significant, important, pivotal type and sort of suspense at the end of the scene and act. This suspense is whether Hamlet will do what he promised the ghost to do. Will he get vengeance? Now, this suspense is really a very tensious, anxious one, because we know Hamlet. Hamlet at a certain time acts passionately, acts emotionally, and he acts at a sudden. And then at the second time, we know that Hamlet is a student in Wittenberg and he is intellectual and he is now a follower of the mind. Then uh, revenge, vengeance, and these things are so difficult to be done. They are not easy tasks to be done by someone who is like Hamlet. So from this point on, we will see that Hamlet is having a torn out, a worn out personality that is divided into two. That is now, he is having a very crucial, a very difficult internal conflict, whether to do or not to do, whether to be or not to be, whether to act the act of vengeance or not to do this, whether to believe in the ghost or not, whether his father was really murdered and or not, and how he will act then. So, although Hamlet has promised his father's ghost to accomplish the mission of revenge, but this mission of revenge is something he takes no pleasure in. It's something so difficult. So let's say something not easily done by someone who is having a personality just like the personality of Hamlet. Then at first, in the beginning, he seemed almost anxious to kill his uncle. He acts, as we said, always he acts at the beginning. He initially he acts passionately and emotionally. So he was so anxious to kill his uncle, but by the end of the scene, he considers his task in more serious terms. He will start to use his mind, not his heart. He will start to follow his intellect, his reason, not his passions and emotions. So he will see that the revenge and the vengeance act is something very difficult. He knows that his job is immense. His father was the king, and the death of a king upsets the balance of the state. As you know, we mentioned now in the introduction to this play, what makes the revenge of Hamlet so difficult is what we mentioned then at that introduction, if you remember. We said that there was a pyramid. There was a social hierarchy to gain harmony inside of the society and the universe as a whole during the Elizabethan times. According to the Elizabethan beliefs and way of living, um, they they placed a pyramid, and at the top of the pyramid was God, and at the top of the that is a universal pyramid, and at the top of the social pyramid there is the representative, the symbol, the incarnation of God on earth, who is the king. So by killing the king, this means that this is not a sin against humanity only, but this is a sin done by Claudius the killer, the murderer, against God himself. So by killing the king, the top of the social pyramid, the top of the social hierarchy, this means that Claudius now destroyed, deteriorated. He has broken the social hierarchy. He has broken the social pyramid. He has put an end to the harmony that is believed to exist inside of the society because of this social, let's say, hierarchy and social pyramid. So now Hamlet's job of revenge is a two-folded one, is in two sides. Okay, then he is obliged, because he is the only son to his father, he's obliged to revenge for the murder of his father because he is a son and because of the killing of his father. And then he is also obliged to, because he's the prince of Denmark, he is obliged to restore the harmony, to restore the series now that was broken by Claudius, the series of the social hierarchy, and to restore the correct placement of the social pyramid that was turned upside down by King Claudius in killing his let's say brother, who is the father of Hamlet. So the job of Hamlet is really a very, let us say, laborious one. It's a very difficult one, not that easy act of revenge to be acted by. And when it's a double folded, it's a two-mold one, to revenge the killing of his father and to restore the social hierarchy and harmony that was deteriorated and broken by Claudius in accomplishing that act of killing and murder. Then the unnatural demise of King Hamlet bodes evil for an entire society. Hamlet reminds himself that the world, the cosmos itself, the whole universe must be set right. And for Hamlet, he must gain back, he must restore back the harmony that was broken by King Claudius now. Then the scene this scene 5, it will forever alter Hamlet's future. Now you will see from the end of scene 5 up to the end of the play, you will see that um, Hamlet now, his future, his whole future will change, and now he will act as somebody else. He will act as pretending madness, and he will, act as a totally different person from the person that we have seen and known from the beginning of the play, from the beginning of scene 1, that intellectual man who is a depressed person because of the killing of his father, a person who wishes to be dead, a person who thinks that everything in the universe is set wrong and there is no trust even to anybody except his closest friends, of course, as an exception. But even a person who thinks that even he has no control over the universe, he has no control over life, the society, and he has even no control over his own life and decisions. So this scene now forever alters Hamlet's future. From now on, his life must be dedicated to avenging the murder of his father. So he has now one goal, one objective, one aim in life, which is only to live solely for the sake of revenge and for the sake of setting the universe to its right, let us say, a stream. Then cursed spite has left him with nothing else, which Hamlet understands, reminding the men, Horatio and Horcillus, of their vow of silence, of their swears to keep this matter a secret one and not to tell anybody of it. Hamlet then departs with Horatio and Marcellus, putting an end to scene 5 and putting an end to the whole act, which is Act 1, and leaving us in a very crucial suspense to wait really in suspense for what will happen in the next act, Act 2, and the first scene of Act 2, and the coming events in the course of the play, in the development of the play, if Hamlet will act this action of revenge, if he will accomplish his vengeance or not. So let us live in this suspense. Let's wait until we meet with Hamlet and the other characters in the coming acts and scenes. So stay tuned, please, to know and to figure out what character Hamlet is and what personality is he bearing and having, and what will he do in the next acts and scenes. So to end this lecture and to end scene 5 and to end act 1 as a whole, I want you to know that if you see here that this scene functions 5 things. That scene 5 has 5 functions, which are: number 1, it functions as a conclusion and a suitable closing to act 1, really a very suitable ending to that act of suspense and waiting for the message of the ghost to be delivered. Now the message is delivered, so scene 5 is a very, really, it forms as the conclusion and a very, really suitable, appropriate closing to act 1. Then it is an ending point to the suspense of waiting and in suspense for the ghost to come and to speak and then to deliver the message, and what type of message is it. So now that suspense is now coming to its end, which that suspense which is started as early as scene 1 of this act. Then yet still it will start another bigger and more significant suspense, as we have seen with the explication of the scene in the last part of it. We said that we will now be meeting a more crucial, more pivotal, and more significant suspense, bigger suspense, in fact, which is now to do with Hamlet and his act of revenge. To do it or not to do it. To act or not to act, to be or not to be. Then, number 4, it is a little break from the previous scene 4 of festivity, festivity, in fact, or the festivals, the parties of Claudius, and also the, let's say, domestic meeting between Polonius and his daughter Ophelia and his son Laertes, and what really the events that have taken place between them. So after the end of that domestic scene, now we have a break, a little break from the previous scene. Then also, now, as we mentioned earlier in the explanation to this scene and the explication of scene 5, now this scene functions as a change to Hamlet's future, as his life will be from now on dedicated only to revenge, the revenge from the murderer or the murderers of his father, and then also to, let's say, to restore back the harmony of the universe, to restore back the broken series of the social hierarchy, and to restore back, to have back and to restore back the correct placement of the social pyramid, and to place the real king with the divine right, not the murderer king, uh, on the top of that pyramid, to set back the whole universe into its harmony once again. So this is the end to our discussion. Thanks a lot for your listening, for your, let's say, patience, and thanks a lot for being so, let us say, so clever in discussing the points here. Thank you all, students, and see you with the coming acts and scenes. Stay safe, please.